The stars stretched like silver dust outside the large viewing window of the valiant horizon. Commander Jason Hale stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the strange new star system ahead. It was the home of the Amazara, a warrior race taller, stronger, and older than humans. He had read the reports. The Amazara had fought endless wars for centuries. They had strong traditions, a strict honor code, and a history of refusing contact with other species. But now, for the first time, they had called for an alliance. Jason was chosen to lead the mission. He was calm, clever, and had a reputation for solving conflicts without violence. Still, he knew this meeting would be the most difficult of his career. Lieutenant Parker stepped up beside him. "Commander, we are approaching the Amazara capital planet. Landing permission granted. The Queen herself will receive you." Jason gave a short nod. "Prepare the team. Full formal protocol." The shuttle descended through bright clouds and into the sprawling city below. Tall silver towers rose into the sky, each shaped like a spear point. Vast banners in deep red and gold hung from the walls. Amazaran soldiers stood in rows along the landing platform, their armor polished until it gleamed. As Jason stepped onto the platform, he felt dozens of sharp, assessing eyes on him. The Amazara were easily 7 feet tall, their movements precise and disciplined. They carried long ceremonial blades at their sides, though none were drawn. The palace stood beyond the soldiers, its gates wide and carved with scenes of battles from centuries past. Inside, the throne room stretched like a hall built for giants. The queen sat on a high seat of black stone, wearing armor decorated with intricate patterns. Her long, dark hair was tied back, and her golden eyes glowed with sharp intelligence. Jason walked forward, stopping at the base of the steps. "Queen Sarathia," he said, his voice steady. "I am Commander Jason Hale of the United Earth Fleet. I come to speak of peace and cooperation between our peoples." The queen studied him in silence for a long moment. Her gaze moved over him, not in the way of someone judging clothing or rank, but as though she was weighing every movement, every breath. Finally she spoke, her voice deep and clear. "He is perfect for breeding." The hall went silent. The human delegation shifted uncomfortably. Jason kept his expression calm, though he felt the words like a thrown spear. Queen Sarathia continued as if she had said something entirely ordinary. "Our people have grown weaker after many years of war. Our healers say our next generations will not survive unless we find those with strong, unbroken health. You, human, carry something rare. The way you stand, the way you breathe, the look in your eyes. You have the strength we need." Jason understood at once that this was not about personal desire. Among the Amazara, breeding was a formal word, part of their survival traditions. Still, the choice of words would cause chaos in human media if repeated without explanation. One of the Queen's advisors stepped forward. "Your kind may be smaller, but you have faced dangers that would kill our strongest. Our Queen believes your traits should be passed on for the good of the Amazara future." Jason kept his voice calm. "I appreciate your Queen's confidence. But before anything else, I am here to speak of peace. Our people have never fought. We could trade knowledge, technology, and aid each other in medicine." The Queen smiled slightly. "Peace is good, but peace alone will not save my people. You will take part in our trials. Only then will I know if your strength is true." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Trials?" The Queen stood, and the room seemed to grow smaller as she descended the steps. Even without her armor, she would tower over him. "The trials of suitability," she said. "We do not take partners from other worlds without testing their skill, mind, and heart. You will face challenges of endurance, strategy, and leadership. If you succeed, the Amazara will know you are worthy, not just for breeding, but for alliance." Jason glanced at his officers. They looked uneasy. but he saw something else in their eyes: curiosity. This was more than diplomacy. It was an opening into a culture no human had ever truly entered. He bowed slightly. "Then I will take your trials, Queen Sarathia. But know this: I will not fight to prove myself through destruction. I will prove myself through wisdom and respect." The Queen's smile grew wider. "We shall see if wisdom can win where strength has always ruled." Later, as Jason was shown to his guest quarters, Lieutenant Parker muttered, "Commander, did she just say she wants you for breeding?" Jason gave a quiet chuckle. "Yes, Lieutenant, but in her language it means something different. For them, it's survival. For us, it's diplomacy. Either way, we play along, for now." He looked out the window at the Amazaran city. In the distance, he could see an arena rising above the rooftops, its spires lit with banners of red and gold. He had a feeling that was where the trials would begin. Somewhere deep inside, Jason felt a spark of excitement. This was not going to be an ordinary diplomatic mission. The fate of two worlds might rest on his ability to pass the tests of a warrior queen. And if he failed, the alliance might never happen at all. The morning sun over the Amazaran capital was a deep gold, spilling over the silver towers and wide courtyards. Commander Jason Hale stood at the edge of a massive arena, his boots on smooth stone. The crowd was already gathering, thousands of Amazara in red and gold cloaks, their voices like a low rumble before a storm. Queen Sarathia stood on a raised platform in the center. Her armor shone in the sunlight, and her voice carried easily over the crowd. "Today, the human commander will face the trials of suitability. He will prove if he is worthy of alliance and of carrying the strength of the Amazara into the future." The people roared. Jason kept his face calm, though inside he felt the weight of every eye watching him. A tall figure in silver armor stepped forward. "First trial," the announcer called. "The trial of endurance." The gates at the far end of the arena opened. From the shadows emerged a massive creature, a war beast called a Growlthor. It was covered in thick, scaled hide, with curved horns and a tail that could crush stone. The crowd cheered as the beast let out a roar that shook the ground. Lieutenant Parker, watching from the sidelines, muttered under his breath, "This looks like a bad idea." Jason stepped forward, unarmed. He knew killing the beast would impress some, but it would not prove the kind of strength the Queen wanted to see. He needed to win without needless destruction. The Growlthor charged, horns down. Jason sidestepped, moving faster than the crowd expected. He remembered the training fields back on Earth. Never meet force with force when you can redirect it. He led the beast toward a narrow stone path near the arena wall. The Growlthor tried to follow but stumbled when its large body couldn't fit through the gap. Jason used the moment to leap onto a low wall, staying just out of reach. The beast turned, confused, then slowed its attack. Jason crouched, speaking in a calm voice. "Easy. You're not my enemy." The crowd watched in silence as Jason tossed a piece of fruit from a nearby stand toward the creature. The Growlthor sniffed it, then ate it without aggression. Slowly, Jason stepped down from the wall and walked past the beast. It no longer saw him as a threat. The announcer's voice broke the silence. "The human has passed the trial of endurance." The Queen's eyes shone with interest. "He wins without killing. This is unusual." The second trial began within the hour. "This," the announcer said, "is the trial of strategy." The arena floor changed. Mechanical platforms rose from the ground, creating a maze of high walls and shifting paths. At the far end, a flag hung from a tall pole. The goal was simple: reach the flag before the Amazaran challenger. Jason's opponent was Captain Varek, a warrior known for his speed and cunning. The horns sounded, and they both moved. Varric ran straight toward the flag, using his long legs to cover ground quickly. Jason, however, stopped to study the moving walls. He noticed that certain platforms rotated on hidden gears. If timed correctly, one could ride them closer to the goal. While Varric struggled against a dead-end wall, Jason climbed onto a rotating platform, leaping across to another just before it turned. He avoided direct confrontation, letting the maze itself slow his opponent. Finally, Jason reached the flag. He didn't yank it from the pole. Instead, he waited for Varric to arrive and offered to take it together. The crowd murmured at this unexpected gesture. The Queen leaned forward. "Why do you share victory?" she called. Jason replied, "Because the real goal is not to win alone. It is to win together. That is how alliances work." The crowd erupted in mixed reactions, some confused, others impressed. The third and final challenge came after sunset. Torches lit the arena, casting long shadows. "This," the announcer declared, "is the trial of leadership." A group of young Amazaran cadets was brought forward, each carrying a heavy shield. Jason's task was to lead them against an approaching wave of armored drones. The drones were fast, strong, and programmed to overwhelm. Jason quickly assessed the cadets. They were brave but inexperienced. "Shields together!" he shouted. "Form a wall! Move as one!" The first drones hit the shields hard, but Jason kept them steady. He didn't try to destroy the enemy outright. Instead, he had the cadets lure the drones into a narrow section of the arena where they couldn't surround the group. Then, using the cadets' shields as a barrier, he led them in a push that forced the drones back toward the activation gate. When the gate's sensors detected the returning drones, it shut them down automatically. The crowd cheered, this time without hesitation. The cadets saluted Jason with pride. When all the trials were complete, Queen Sarathia stepped into the center of the arena. "Commander Jason Hale," she said, "you have shown endurance, strategy, and leadership. You did not rely on strength alone, and you won without dishonor. You are different from what we expected." Jason met her gaze. "I came here to prove that humans can be more than just visitors. We can be allies." The Queen raised her voice so all could hear. "You have passed the trials of suitability. The Council will speak of this victory. But no, human, the road ahead is not without danger. Not all in my court wish for peace." Jason bowed slightly. "Then I will face them, as I faced your trials." The Queen smiled faintly. "We shall see." As Jason left the arena, the chants of the Amazaran people followed him. Some called his name, others shouted words he did not understand. But he knew they were words of respect. Somewhere in the shadows of the palace, however, unseen eyes watched, and their look was not one of respect. It was one of cold, silent threat. The palace of the Amazara was quiet at night, but Jason Hale knew that silence did not mean safety. He stood on the balcony of his guest quarters, looking at the city lights below. The air smelled faintly of metal and distant fires. The trials had earned him the Queen's respect and some of the people's trust. But he could feel the shift in the air, whispers in the halls, guarded looks from certain council members. Not everyone wanted this alliance. Inside his quarters, Lieutenant Parker read from a small data tablet. "Reports from our ship say Amazaran news channels are split. Half call you a hero, half call you a dangerous outsider." Jason kept his eyes on the skyline. "And the half that see me as dangerous, those are the ones we need to watch." The B. Next day, Jason attended a meeting of the Queen's High Council. The chamber was circular, with tall windows letting in golden sunlight. The council members sat in a ring, their armor polished, their faces unreadable. Queen Sarathia spoke first. "Commander Hale has passed the trials. He has proven endurance, strategy, and leadership. I propose we move forward with alliance talks." A Counselor named Lord Rythar stood. He was tall, even for an Amazoran, with pale silver hair and sharp eyes. "Your Majesty, the human may have skill, but skill is not enough. Our traditions are sacred. Bringing in outsiders weakens us." Jason spoke calmly. "With respect, Lord Rythar, your people have faced the same threat for decades: disease and resource loss. Alone, that fight will be harder. Together, we have a chance to win." Rythar's voice was cold. "Or perhaps the human's presence is itself a threat." The Queen's gaze hardened. "Enough, Rythar. The trials are sacred law. You will honor their results." The meeting ended, but Jason caught the look in Rythar's eyes as he left, one that promised trouble. That night, Jason took a walk through the palace gardens. The moonlight made the silver leaves of the Amazoran trees shine, faintly. It was quiet, too quiet. He heard a faint click. His instincts screamed danger. Without thinking, he dove behind a stone pillar as a small projectile shattered against it, releasing a burst of thick smoke. From the haze, shadowy figures emerged, 3 Amazoran assassins in dark armor. They moved fast, but Jason was faster, in thought. He picked up a fallen staff from the ground and swung it wide, forcing them back. The first assassin lunged, but Jason sidestepped, using the staff to trip him. The second tried to strike from behind, but Jason blocked the blow and shoved him into a fountain. The third hesitated just long enough for Jason to retreat toward the palace guard patrol. Hearing the commotion, the guards rushed in, and the assassins fled into the shadows. Queen Sarathia herself came to see what happened. "You were attacked?" she asked, her voice tight with anger. Jason nodded. "Trained fighters. They wanted me silent, not just injured." The Queen's jaw clenched. "This is the work of those who oppose the alliance. Rythar's faction grows bolder." The next day, Jason was assigned an Amazoran bodyguard named Kalen. He was young, with a serious face and a habit of scanning every corner. "I will keep you safe," Kalen said simply. Jason didn't argue. "Then keep your eyes open. Whoever sent them will try again. Maybe not at me, but at the Queen." Over the following days, Jason learned more about the Amazara's problems. The plague spreading through their cities was worse than the Queen had said. Entire border villages were losing people, and their healers could not find a cure. In a private meeting, Queen Sarathia showed Jason a sealed data file. "This is why I spoke of breeding," she said. "Your genetic pattern resists the disease completely. If we can combine your immunity with our own, our children will survive. But the Council does not all agree on this path." Jason understood. Now, this wasn't only about diplomacy. It was about the survival of a people. "Then we can't wait for them to agree. We have to act." One evening, Jason and Kalen were walking through the lower market district when Kalen suddenly stopped. His hand went to his weapon. "Commander, back away." From the crowd ahead, armored figures began moving toward them, 6 this time. Not assassins in shadows, but soldiers loyal to Rythar, wearing his faction's crest. The leader stepped forward. "Commander Hale, by order of Lord Rythar, you are to be taken for questioning." Jason's voice was steady. "Under whose law? The Queen's or your master's?" The soldier did not answer, only raised his weapon. Before the fight could start, the crowd parted, and Queen Sarathia herself rode in on a massive armored beast. She dismounted in one fluid motion. "My law is the only law here," she said, her voice like thunder. The soldiers froze. One by one, they stepped back, lowering their weapons. The Queen's gaze swept over them like a blade. "Tell your master this. If he moves against my guest again, he will answer to me directly." The soldiers left without another word. That night, Jason stood once again on the balcony of his quarters, the city glowing under the moons. Kalen stood nearby, silent but alert. Parker came in, looking tired. "Commander, we're not just dealing with politics. We're in the middle of a power struggle, and I don't think Rythar will stop until he either wins or destroys you." Jason nodded slowly. "Then we'll have to make sure he doesn't get either option." Far below, in the dark streets, Rythar's agents moved like shadows. The game had begun, and Jason knew the next move would decide whether this fragile path to peace would hold or collapse completely. The council chamber was darker than usual, the tall windows covered with heavy banners. Queen Sarathia had called a private meeting. Only Jason, Lieutenant Parker, and a few trusted Amazaran healers were present. On the large table in the center lay several data screens showing charts and medical reports. Jason studied them, his jaw tightening. The numbers were grim. "This is the truth we can no longer hide," the Queen said. "The plague has spread to more than half our cities. Our healers cannot slow it. In some villages, it wipes out an entire generation in months." Jason looked at the charts again. "You told me it was bad," he said quietly. "But not this bad." Sarathia's voice was steady, but her eyes were heavy with worry. "I feared telling the full truth would weaken my position with the council. Some believe we can outlast it. They are wrong." The lead healer, an older Amazaran woman named Kalira, stepped forward. "Commander Hale, your medical scans show you are completely immune. Our analysis says your blood holds patterns our people lack, patterns that could make us resistant. But the cure is not something that can be created in a laboratory." Jason frowned. "Why not?" Kalira explained. "Our immune systems are complex. Mixing traits requires a natural passing of life, not artificial engineering. It is tradition and biology together." Jason understood at once. "You mean you want my lineage in your people?" Sarathia met his eyes. "Yes. I want you to become part of our bloodline. That was why I said, you are perfect for breeding. It was never about desire. It was about survival." Parker shifted uncomfortably. "Commander, Earth Command is not going to like this. They'll call it interference in alien culture. They'll say it's crossing a line." Jason's mind was already turning. "And if I refuse?" Sarathia's voice grew quiet. "Then my people die, not quickly, but slowly and forever." Later, Jason sat alone in his quarters. Outside, the Amazaran city was alive with sound, but inside it felt silent. He thought of the trials, of the crowds cheering, of the young cadets in the leadership test. He thought of the assassins in the garden and the soldiers in the market. This was more than politics. It was life or death for an entire race. Parker entered quietly. "You're thinking about saying yes, aren't you?" Jason didn't answer at first. Then he said, "If it was Earth, if it was our people, wouldn't you want someone to do the same?" Parker sighed. "I'd want it. But the people back home might not understand." Jason gave a faint smile. "They don't have to understand. They just have to live with it." The next morning, the Queen called for a public assembly in the Great Plaza. Tens of thousands of Amazara gathered, their banners waving in the wind. Jason stood beside her on the high platform. Queen Sarathia raised her hand, and the plaza fell silent. "My people," she began, "we stand at the edge of a dark time. The plague grows, our healers fight, but the sickness spreads faster than our hope." A murmur ran through the crowd. She continued, "But there is one among us who carries the strength we need. This human commander has faced our trials. He has shown honor, wisdom, and courage. His blood holds the key to our survival." Jason stepped forward. He could feel thousands of eyes on him. "I did not come here expecting this," he said, his voice carrying across the plaza. "But I have seen your courage. I have fought beside you, and I have walked your cities. You are a people worth saving." The Queen's voice rang out like steel. "I ask him now, before all of you, will you bind your future to ours, so that together our bloodlines will carry us into the next age?" For a heartbeat, the plaza was silent. Jason thought of Earth Command, of political fallout, of all the ways this could end badly for him personally. And then he thought of the children who would never grow up if he said no. He raised his voice. "Yes, I will." The plaza erupted. Some cheered, some shouted in shock, but the sound was deafening. The Queen stepped forward and clasped Jason's, forearm in the Amazaran warrior's grip. "Then from this day," she declared, "let it be known that Jason Hale is of the Amazara, and the Amazara are of him." In the council chamber later, the reaction was not as warm. Lord Rythar's face was like carved stone. "You make decisions without the council's approval," he said to the Queen. "This alliance is dangerous." Jason met his gaze. Dangerous. To whom? To the plague? Or to your power? Rythar's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. The Queen spoke firmly. "The decision is made. You will respect it, or you will face the law." Rythar left without another word, but Jason could feel the promise of revenge in his silence. That night, Jason looked out at the city from the balcony once more. Kalen, his bodyguard, stood beside him. "You've made history today," Kalen said. Jason nodded slowly. "I just hope I've made the right kind." Far to the north, beyond the city lights, smoke rose on the horizon. It was the first sign of trouble from the Kroganth, the Amazara's old enemies. And Jason knew that the Queen's proposal was only the beginning of the real fight. The alarm bells rang through the Amazaran capital before the first light of dawn. Jason Hale was already awake when Kalen burst into his quarters. "The Kroganth fleet has crossed the border," Kalen said, his voice sharp. "They are heading toward the northern defense line." Jason was already pulling on his gear. "How many ships?" "Too many for a small strike," Kalen replied grimly. "This is war." In the royal war room, Queen Sarathia stood before a giant holographic display. Red symbols marked the advancing Kroganth fleet, moving fast toward Amazaran space. "They strike now because they think we are weak," the Queen said. "They know our people are sick. They do not yet know we have new allies." Jason stepped forward. "If we rush our forces directly into their path, we'll take heavy losses. We need to control the field, make them fight where we want them to fight." One counselor frowned. "And where would that be?" Jason pointed at a narrow star corridor between two asteroid fields. "Here. Their ships are big and slow to turn. If we lure them in, we can trap them between the asteroids and strike from both sides." Sarathia's eyes brightened. "A double flank. Dangerous, but possible." Within hours, the joint Amazaran human fleet was ready. Jason boarded one of the sleek Amazaran warships, its dark hull covered in silver markings. Lieutenant Parker was already at the tactical station. "Commander," Parker said, "this ship can move faster than anything we have on Earth, but their weapons burn hotter. They'll overheat if we push them too long." Jason nodded. "Then we make every shot count." The Kroganth ships appeared on the sensors as massive, jagged shapes, like floating fortresses armed with rows of heavy cannons. Their flagship led the formation, a black and gold behemoth. Jason's fleet moved forward slowly, pretending to give ground. Over the comms, he heard the Kroganth commander's voice, deep, mocking. "So this is the human the Amazara call their champion. You will make a fine prisoner." Jason replied evenly. "You'll have to catch me first." The trap began. The Amazaran ships pulled back toward the asteroid corridor, with the Kroganth chasing eagerly. Jason's ship was at the center, drawing their attention. When the Kroganth fleet entered the corridor, Jason gave the order. "Flank teams, now, from both sides." hidden Amazaran squadrons emerged from behind the asteroids, striking the Kroganth with concentrated fire. Rocks exploded as blasts missed their targets, but the plan worked. The Kroganth ships were pinned. On the Kroganth flagship, the enemy commander ordered all weapons to fire at Jason's ship. Parker shouted over the noise of alarms, "Shields dropping fast!" Jason kept his voice calm. "Divert power from engines to shields. Hold them just long enough for the Queen's ships to break their center." On the view screen, Jason saw the Queen's personal warship slicing through the Kroganth line like a blade, its weapons firing with precision. Her voice came over the comms. "Hale, your move." Jason smiled grimly. "Forward all batteries. Fire on my mark." "Mark!" Every gun on his ship lit up at once, tearing through the Kroganth flagship's side. Explosions rippled along its hull until the great ship began to drift, weapons silent. The battle raged for another hour before the Kroganth began to retreat. The Amazaran fleet did not pursue. They had won the day. In the command chamber, the crew cheered. Parker slumped into his seat, breathing hard. "I can't believe that actually worked." Jason gave him a small smile. "Believe it, but it's not over. The Kroganth will be back." Back in the capital, the Queen met Jason in the throne room. She was still in her armor, but her eyes were alive with fierce pride. "You led our fleet to victory," she said. "Even my oldest generals doubted we could win without heavy losses. You proved them wrong." Jason shook his head. "The victory was the fleet's, not mine alone." The Queen stepped closer. "Perhaps, but without your plan, we would be burying thousands tonight." Later that evening, a council meeting was called to discuss the next steps. Most members praised the victory, but not all. Lord Rythar's voice cut through the room. "This battle proves nothing," he said. "The Kroganth will return stronger. And what will happen when the humans' fleet leaves? We will be alone again." Jason met his gaze. "That's why the alliance matters. Together, we can prepare for their next move. Alone, you will fall." The Queen spoke firmly. "The alliance stands, and so does Commander Hale." Rethar's eyes narrowed. "For now." That night, Jason walked through the palace corridors, the echoes of the day's battle still in his mind. Kalen walked beside him, his hand on the hilt of his blade. "You fought well today," Kalen said. Jason glanced at him. "So did the Amazara and the humans. We're stronger together than we are apart." From a high balcony, Jason looked out over the city. The people below were lighting great fire bowls in celebration, their red and gold banners glowing in the night. But beyond the city walls, far in the darkness of space, the Kroganth still waited. And Jason knew the war was far from over. The war had ended, but its echoes still filled the air. The Kroganth had retreated beyond the borders, their threat not gone but delayed. The Amazaran and human fleets stood side by side in the capital's great harbor, their flags flying together, a symbol of new hope. Commander Jason Hale stood on the deck of an Amazaran warship, looking out at the horizon. Beside him stood Queen Sarathia, her armor gleaming in the morning light. "We have much to rebuild," she said quietly. "Our people are tired, but they are ready to learn from you." Jason smiled. "And your people have shown me the true meaning of honor. Together, we are stronger than ever." In the weeks that followed, the two species worked to build more than just peace. They built bridges. A grand academy was founded at the edge of the capital city, where young Amazaran and human students studied side by side. The curriculum was a mix of human science and Amazaran tradition. The halls were filled with laughter, debates, and friendship. Jason visited often, watching the future leaders of both worlds grow. One day, He stopped beside a group of students, practicing combat drills. Queen Sarathia approached. "Our children will carry the legacy of this union," she said. "You made that possible." Jason looked at her, his eyes warm. "We did it together." Political tensions did not disappear overnight. Some council members still grumbled, and the scars of war were slow to heal. But the alliance gave hope to many. Trade routes opened between human and Amazaran worlds, bringing new goods and ideas. One afternoon, Jason received a message from Earth Command. They were cautious, but willing to support the alliance, recognizing its value. Jason shared the news with the Queen. "Your people's strength and their willingness to change convinced them," she nodded. "And your courage made them listen." In the quiet moments, Jason reflected on his journey. From the day he stepped onto the Amazaran world, facing trials of strength and wisdom, to the day he accepted the Queen's proposal, each step had been difficult, but worth it. He remembered the words of the Queen. Breeding was never just about survival. It was about creating a legacy of strength, honor, and unity. Now he understood fully. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Jason and Sarathia stood on a balcony overlooking the great plaza. The crowd below gathered for the Festival of Unity, a celebration of the new alliance. The plaza was alive with color and sound. Music from human instruments mixed with the deep drum beats of the Amazara. Children from both races ran through the streets, playing and laughing together. Sarathia smiled. "This is what we fought for." Jason nodded. "A future where our peoples walk side by side, not as strangers, but as family." As the festival continued, Jason noticed a small group of young Amazaran warriors approaching. Their leader stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Commander Hale," he said respectfully, "we are honored to learn from you. Your legacy will guide us." Jason's heart warmed. He placed a hand on the young warrior's shoulder. "And yours will guide the future." Later, in the quiet of the palace, Jason sat with Sarathia. "You have become more than an ally," she said softly. "You are the bridge between two worlds." Jason smiled. "I am proud to stand with you." The Queen's eyes shone. "Together, we will face whatever comes next." The stars shone bright that night, a silent promise of hope and unity. Two worlds once distant now shared a future, built on trust, courage, and the unbreakable bonds of friendship. Commander Jason Hale knew the journey was far from over, but for the first time, he felt ready, because he was not alone.